Okay, I think we'll get started. My name's Tony DeVito. Most of you heard me introduce myself upstairs, or if you guys came in a little bit later and stuff like that. I'm going to be your lab instructor. We're going to be in our lecture session for usually about an hour and a quarter or so. Levi will give you mostly, I guess, theory and background on the statistical analyses that you're going to be learning about. Then we have this nice lab that we can come down to and practice in. Since we're only required to be here 4 times as a group, everybody together, most nights it's not going to be, in fact, all nights for sure, it's not going to be an issue in terms of like the number of machines here. On exam nights, we have 2 exams that you'll have to be back here for, and we have a project. Project night, you're not going to be using these anyway, unless you need to polish up something. So most of you probably won't be using them. On the exam nights, we'll be able to spill over into the next room so that we'll have plenty of machines for everybody. For tonight, since this is kind of a lecture, a lot of this is kind of a lecture and demonstration and so on and so forth. It's a little inconvenient because we only have 24 workstations and roughly 29 students because it looks like we used every one of those extra laptops. So we'll have to live with it for tonight, but hopefully, there won't be a problem in the future. On these computers, in this lab, in any of the labs, most of these labs, usually there's at least one lab open that's not being used for classes every night of the week, anytime you come down here. You also have computers in the library. You have computers all over the campuses. All the campuses have computers that you'll have access to. All of those computers have SPSS on them. All of them have SAS, another statistical program. All of them have Word, Excel, and so on and so forth. They all have access to email. They all have access to network and Blackboard. So you'll be able to, if you need the computers, you don't have the software at home, you for one reason or another don't want to buy it or something like that, you'll have access through the school itself. I really strongly suggest that you make sure that you have some convenient access to Word, Excel, and SPSS or R, or both, if possible. We're going to talk about the relative advantages of one or the other. You guys are a pretty advanced group, a pretty smart group. I think many of you may want to use R. Normally, I recommend, we were teaching 750, and it's mostly people that don't have as much of a math background as many of you have, or haven't taken statistics in a long time. So usually I like to get them to go ahead and buy the SPSS license for 6 months. Okay. Oh yeah, we're going to have to take attendance for this session. We have we have to do something called web roster where we have to confirm that you're at least attending the class. Okay, that's so that we know that there are people that are here on visas, it's the student visas that have scholarships and so on and so forth that we have to confirm they've actually attended the class. So we're going to ask you to take attendance for tonight. We're normally not going to take attendance, except of course for the exams and the projects where you're going to have to hand something in. So anyway, we're going to talk about software. So what are you going to need for this course in terms of software? You have what you need in this classroom if you want it, or this lab if you want to, but it might help if you guys also consider some of the other materials. You guys already know that the textbook is free. It's open, what we call open source. It's developed by volunteers who contribute to it, statisticians have contributed to it, many hours of work. And it's as good as any statistics textbook that we've worked with in the past. And it's dead free. You can even purchase a copy on Amazon and a couple of other links that they have on their website to get a printed version of it, a bound printed version of it for $10 or less. The website is openintro.org. Okay, and you'll be able to download the PDF version of it for free, or you can go ahead and purchase a printed version of it. This is the first semester, we're working with the 3rd edition. I haven't really had much of a chance to see it, to play with it, to see what the differences are with the 2nd edition. But since it's free, it really doesn't matter, right? You can always get the newest one. Don't have to worry about getting an old one. Okay, next thing that you're going to need to do or have in this class is that because as you go through this program, you are likely to be working with humans in research, or you're going to be working with data pertaining to humans in research. The Internal Review Board for research at Hunter requires that you complete a certificate program in ethics and human research. Okay, and that is available at a website called citiprogram.org, CITI program.org. There's going to be there are and or there if there aren't right now, there's going to be links to this on Blackboard. Basically, you're going to have to register for this. You go online, register for it. It's free. You'll put in your identification, your email, so on and so forth. When you get to the point where you're going to look to which particular course you're going to be taking, the important thing is that you choose as your institution CUNY. It's under CUNY, not CI. Okay, so it's under CUNY, and it may say CUNY Hunter, but CUNY is good enough. And that you choose, the selection I recommend is you choose graduate students in social or behavioral science. That'll give you all of the required modules that you're going to have to complete. You can take a medical version of it also if you want, but you want to say graduate student for sure. If you have taken it in the past, yes?
I can tell you a little secret about it, that if you take a module and you don't get the required 80%,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you really you don't want to read the module, you can just guess at the answers and just keep doing it. Yeah, if you have 12 hours with nothing to do, and eventually you'll get them right. So there's a number of modules. It's about about 10 or 12 modules. It's readings, and you might read something for about 10 minutes, and then have to be required to answer 5 or 6 questions on it. And you got now. You only need to have 80% overall on all of the questions, and you can go back as often as you want and retake the quizzes and so on and so forth. I would budget as much as 6 hours, maybe 3 to 6 hours to do this. And since we're really just getting introduced to each other this week, and we're just really covering a lot of very basics, and we're not going to meet again until almost 2 weeks from now, until next Thursday, right? This would be a great time to get this out of the way, because the last thing you want to be doing is being backed up with finals and projects at the end of the semester, and having to go through this and deal with it then. Okay, so try and get this out of the way in this 2-week period between our classes now. It'll really be a lot easier. It's really interesting reading. It's not so interesting reading when you're under the gun and you have to get it done. Much more interesting reading when you have the time to do it. Okay, so that's what we want on that. Now, if you've taken it before and your certificate is more than a year old, you're going to have to retake it, or you can take a refresher on it, which is a smaller number of modules. Okay, and I think they even though your certificate says it expires in 3 years, I think they don't want you to take one they don't want a certificate that's more than a year old, because it's going to take you a few years to get through the program, a couple of 3 years to get through the program, and they want to make sure if you take it that whatever you take now is going to last through the program. Okay, software and technology, Excel or Word or equivalent. If you don't want to buy it, there's open source software. Does almost everything that Excel and Word do, OpenOffice.org, NeoOffice.org, and so on and so forth. But most people, when they buy a computer these days, Excel or Word is either included or you can get it very cheaply. You're going to need access to Blackboard. Anybody not have access to Blackboard yet? Or should I ask who doesn't? Some of you guys must not have access to Blackboard. It's never everybody. Yes. Okay, so try and get access to Blackboard. If you're delayed getting access to Blackboard, my email address is going to come up shortly, but it's adevito, ADEVITO @hunter.cuny.edu. And if you're going to be delayed getting access to Blackboard, let me know, and I'll send you a copy of the syllabus, which will have all the links for the textbook and so on and so forth and software. If there's any materials that you're going to need, I'll also send you that material as well until you get access to Blackboard. Okay, now statistical software. Here's where we have to make a choice. Okay, and that choice is up to you. IBM SPSS, Statistical Package for the Social Sciences, is what it stood for at one time, is a piece of software that's specifically designed for doing statistical calculations, organizing data, plotting data, and doing analyses. There's many other pieces of software. This is a commercial piece of software. There's many other commercial pieces of software. SAS is a very popular program, and I think the Department of Health tends to use SAS over SPSS. However, It's a very expensive program. Could cost as much as $1,000, $1,500, depending on what modules you buy. You're fortunate because they have a student version, a stripped down student version that you can you can download and get a license for 6 months for just a little under $40. We have the link to that. It's on a website called onthehub.com, and if you just add /SPSS to that, you'll go directly to where that page is. There's a Mac version and there's a PC version. This is on Blackboard. These links, this PowerPoint's on Blackboard now, and it's also these links are also in the syllabus, or if they aren't in the syllabus, I'll make sure that they're there tonight. So it happens to be a piece of software that's really easy to use. Okay, good thing because it'll save you a lot of time in learning how to program and code and use more difficult software. It's a little limited, right? Especially in the things that it can do with the drop-down menus. Most of that won't interfere with us. That won't impact what we're doing, fortunately. But it's very simple to use, and it's got a very familiar interface. You're going to see that it doesn't function like Excel, but it looks like Excel when you first open it up. So you're going to feel comfortable with it right from the start. A lot of the functions work through a drop-down menu. As an alternate to that, you might want to consider R, okay, which is a program, which is an open source program. It's free, and you can download it. And it has a prompt. You work from a prompt, a console, where you enter commands in the basic version of R. And you have to learn the commands. You have to learn how to use it. It's a little bit more time consuming to learn how to do the various things that you're going to want to do in R than it is in SPSS. However, R has a lot more flexibility. First, number one, it's free, and a lot of the things that are missing in the $40 version of SPSS are going to be in R for free. There are various programs which are interfaces for R to make it easier to deal with than just entering commands in the console. For instance, one of them that's very popular is called R Studio. That's also the main version of that is also the primary version of that is also free. You can download that also. There's links on this PowerPoint on Blackboard and so on and so forth. Okay, and if you like using SAS, I don't see any reason why you can't use that and you have it available to you. I'll try and give you the data files in as many forms as I can, certainly as Excel files, as SPSS files, and as comma delimited text files. And usually one of those you'll be able to import into almost any software that you want to use. Any questions on that? Oh, no questions at all. Okay, good. Excellent. Anybody, you guys, how many of you guys plan on using R? Okay, how many of you used R before? Oh, that's the reason. Okay, same people. All right, so that's my contact information. I'd appreciate it if you put PH751 in the subject line because I have a little smart mailbox hooked up there so that when anything that says PH751 in the mailbox goes right into this folder where I have a little red dot lights up and I know that you guys are emailing me. You can pretty much expect pretty consistently that I'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours on emails. Okay, usually it'll be faster than that, but I'll promise you within 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so lectures from 5 to 6, you already know that. You were upstairs. The lab, I think, is in C09. That's what I thought, but you guys all went to C06. So it must be something different on the version of this. What's that? The summer course I was giving was in here. Maybe that's it. Okay, that could be it. Yeah. Well, next time we'll figure it out, and we'll figure out where we're going to be. The crowd's not going to be an issue next time because at least 6 of you are not going to come to attend. In my experience, many more than 6 probably are not going to be physically attending. Although there's some good reasons to want to come in here. So we should be able to get by with one room. We can spill over into I understand they have the guy in ICE that just told me they have us assigned to 2 rooms actually. So I think for the exams we can spill over into the second room. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, in-class attendance is on 4 dates today. Exam 1 and exam 2, that's in the syllabus. I didn't bother to write down here because if I wrote it down here, I'd probably put the wrong date and then everybody would be all messed up. So we'll stick with what's in the syllabus. And the project presentations are the last week of the semester. and we might spread that out from a single date, as we were talking about. Especially since my 30th anniversary is on December 21st, which is the date that right now is the project date. And I don't think I'm going to get to miss that to listen to your projects. Okay. If you choose to, okay, let's see. Okay, so at any rate, if you want to follow this remotely, there is a Google Hangouts address which is on. I didn't see in the syllabus, but we'll make sure it's there. Basically, it's the class name PH751 Fall to 2015, and you'll actually, as Levi lectures, he will be broadcasting live over the air. In fact, I was following the lecture here in this room as it was going on. There's a little bit of a lag, a minute or two lag from for his live presentation to what you actually see and hear. That's since he's usually working with PowerPoints, you won't notice that at home. You'll barely notice that there's any lag at home. Now, I tend to work with software and do something that's a little bit more interactive in here. So I use a different program, a different method called GoToMeeting. Some of you that's a commercial software, a commercial website where I can share like right now, I'm sharing my screen with you over the internet. You'd see exactly the same thing you see there, and you'd be hearing me as well. And right now, assuming that everything's working okay, I'm actually recording this. Okay, so Levi's presentation is going out live. It's being recorded as it's being broadcast, and it's actually available immediately. So you can, even if he's halfway through, you could scrub back to the first 5 minutes if you needed to go back and listen to something again. As soon as he's done and he's completed, his presentation is there and available for anyone that wants to see it to then see it again. Or if you missed it, you came in late tonight and you missed it, you'd be able to go there right now and play that presentation back now. Mine takes a little bit more work. I have to convert the video file that I have and upload it to YouTube. The reason why I use it this way is because there's very little lag time. So within a couple of seconds lag time. So it tends to work better for me for these demonstrations on Excel and SPSS. Okay, but there is that disadvantage. And again, I should be able to get these up on Blackboard, available to you so you can review them, or if you miss them and you're time shifting your viewing of a class, I should be able to get it within 24 to 48 hours at the end of the lab session. Okay, any questions on that? And the links will be on Blackboard in the announcements and also in the class, in the little folder for that particular class. Questions? No? No questions here. Okay. Covered that. Okay. The advantages of coming in here. The advantages of coming in here is that if I see that, or Levi sees that something is not being absorbed, it's a lot easier for us to tell that. You can ask questions more immediately. Get responses more immediately. It's very difficult. Like right now, if someone were watching this at home, you notice I haven't really looked at the screen for about 5 minutes, right? So if someone raised their hand or posed a question in the little chat box or something like that, I would have not noticed to get back to them. It's very difficult to discipline yourself to really look back very frequently. So you get a little bit more immediate feedback if you're in here. Also, unfortunately, there's fewer distractions. No babies crying, dogs barking. You laugh, but when we all log on, before I mute the phones, before I mute the microphones on everybody's computers, you'll hear a lot of stuff going on in the background that you wish you hadn't heard. And so at any rate, so there's fewer distractions and stuff like that, and it's also a little bit of a discipline. Also, you have to show up to class every week, and you really have, or you watch it live every week rather than time shifting it. It really helps you keep up with the class. And as many of you know, one of the issues that they have with these online classes, especially the ones that people don't pay for, these MOOCs and stuff like that, they have a very low completion rate. Anybody know what the completion rate is on like edX and Coursera and stuff like that? You know what that completion rate on the courses are? Who wants to take a guess? You're pretty close, 15%. Only 15% of the people that sign up for the courses and actually start them actually wind up completing it. Now, you guys laid out cold hard cash for this course, so your completion rate automatically is going to be a little bit higher, right? But I mean, it is tough to discipline yourself when it's more self-paced than actually trying to attend the class, or at least keeping up with it each week. Okay, let's talk about a little bit of the background of this stuff. Now, fortunately, you guys have no. I'm going to show you something, not because I want you to feel sorry for me, but because I want to show you how much of an advantage that you guys have nowadays. But when I took this course in 1967 at Brooklyn Poly, that was what I used for my statistics class. Okay, mechanical calculator, adding numbers, adding columns and numbers, so on and so forth. And I did all my calculations on that. In my engineering classes, I used one of those things. Anybody know what that thing is? Slide rule, right? Anybody ever use one? No one ever used one. Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear somebody's using it. Okay, it's an interesting skill. Okay, eventually something like this showed up. First one I saw was made by a company called Wang, and it cost like 5 or 10 grand or something like that. And the last thing they were going to do was let students touch it. So it was in a lab with, one of those labs with those windows with the wires in them, so we could look through at it, but not actually touch it. Well, problem is that we needed a way to do calculations. And the first way that we had to do calculations, a lot of the statistical calculations we did were on paper and with that mechanical calculator, and we used basically ledger papers, paper with rows and columns on it. Okay, and that's what a ledger, on the left there, that's what a ledger would look like. In accounting, they still to this day, many accounts use paper ledgers for accounting purposes. With where they don't ever erase anything, they add everything up. They do all this work, and they add up the totals on the bottom and carry them over to the next page, and add up all the next page columns and carry it over to the next page. Well, what's the obvious problem with that? If you made a mistake on page 2, right, and you're on page 47, you got a problem, right? So because you've carried all these numbers over. The way accountants deal with that is they use something called double entry bookkeeping. They don't ever erase anything back here. They just make a correction, like a debit or a credit, and explain what it's for, and so on and so forth. But it's kind of messy, right? At least for what we might be doing with statistics. Well, fortunately, somebody came along with a piece of software that was called which basically was a ledger on a computer screen, or as we call it now, a spreadsheet program. You can see it on the right and kind of compare what the two of them look like. Okay, these are the guys that made the first one. Their names are Dan Bricklin, and I'm trying to think of his partner's name. I don't remember it right now. I'm going to play you a quick video. It'll give you an idea of what the impact of this software back in those days. Okay, and I'm going to do this here. By the way, this is all in a window here. I think I can get the window activated. Oh, no. Okay, do it this way. Okay, I got to turn the sound up. Before I do that, I got to kill the sound here, obviously. Let's see. Oh, actually, I can do it this way. I think I'm okay now. Okay. By the way, let's see. Turn the sound down again. This thing. Okay, I'm back up here. And I'm showing the screen. I don't see it there. There we go. Okay. All right. So that's basically what we're talking about when we talk about now. We're gonna practice a little bit with the spreadsheet later on with Excel, but basically it's just rows and columns, and in those intersections of the rows and columns or cells, we can put certain kinds of data. We can put either text data, which we call a label, typically in those kind of programs. We can put a number in there, or we can put a formula. We can put a calculation in there. And there are various, you can actually write scripts or programs built around those things as well, although people don't do that quite so much anymore. And there are built-in functions that you can use to make those calculations more elaborate. Many of them industry specific, like in our case, going to be specific to statistics. Another kind of program very commonly used is database program. Anybody ever use a database program here? What have you used, like File Pro or Fox Pro?
Access.
Excuse me?
Access.
Access, yeah, because Access is one of the products that comes with Microsoft Office, right? Yes. I'm sorry.
Access and Breakout.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Breakout is mostly used for like PH9, so my employer subscribes to it. So
Oh, okay. Okay, good. I'm sorry. There's also a very popular program called FileMaker Pro, which is cross-platform, PC and Mac. And you can actually download a free trial for a month if you want to play around with it. But in a database program, what you're basically doing is you're organizing data so that you can search it, manipulate it very quickly. A lot of when you're working with a lot of numbers and statistics, sometimes it's easier to use another program to accumulate that data, to organize it, and then export it to a statistical program. Okay, and there's on this PowerPoint, you'll actually, if you read through this, you'll get a little bit better description of some of this stuff. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we were discussing, especially since we're going to be applying this a little bit now, about some